That was a great story. My mom, we lived across the street from a schoolyard, and my mom was very well known on our street. But there was this one particular day, I don't know if you remember those bicycles with the high handlebars and the banana seats. I had one of those bikes, and I had my little brother, who was 6 years younger than me, and I was just riding him up and down the street, just giving him a ride on the back of the bike. And it wasn't uncommon for the women on my block to stand outside in front of their house. 2 or 3 of them would get together and they would talk, whatever it was. And I don't remember exactly what the circumstances were, but something compelled this woman, and I didn't understand what it was. Something compelled this woman to call me a tropical kid. I'm not sure what that is. Let's go home and ask Mom. And I see my mother's, she gets this very scary look. And I was like, oh no, what did I do? Well, Mrs. So-and-so would get in her car every day at the same hour to go pick up her husband at the train station. 3 minutes before that hour that day, my mother was standing in the middle of the street like Mr. Clean, waiting for Mrs. So-and-so to come down the block. She stops the car and rolls down the window, and my mother goes to the window and says, "Did you call my daughter a tropical kid?" And Mrs. So-and-so, I don't know what she said, but because I was standing in the front door, the next thing I know, my mother's pulling her out of her car through the window. And in her best English is proceeding to school this woman on how Puerto Rico is, we are citizens here in the United States, we are Americans, and where does she get off, and blah, blah, blah. That day, I knew that if I ever became a mother, I would be that type of lioness with my children. My son Eric has always been very loquacious. There were times when he was a little boy, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, and I would take him out to lunch. That would be like our thing. So we would go out to lunch and I couldn't get a word in edgewise because Eric was born 80 years old and he pontificates. He's pontificated since he was able to talk, and he still does so now. And I remember driving Mark to school one morning, and I had to pull the car over because out of nowhere this kid says to me, and he must have been maybe 3 years old, he said to me, "Mom, is God happy with the way the world is today?" That was Mark. Those were the kinds of things that Mark would talk about. Either that or he'd talk with like different accents. And Mark would go to the bathroom, like in the morning I'd be in the kitchen fixing breakfast, and Mark would go into the bathroom and I would end up on the other side of the bathroom door because he would be doing voices in there, like with accents and everything. And I'd be like, "Mark, is everything okay in there? What's going on?" Then David is part leprechaun. I always thought that he was like my practical joker. Although all the kids have a really great sense of humor, David was the one that for April Fool's Day put the hair tie on the hose on the kitchen sink, so that when I turned the water on, I'd get sprayed with that was yeah. And he called one of his teachers penis breath, and we got called. He got called in to go. That was my David. So the conversations with all 3 of them were very, very different in content and in style. And Angela, of course, Angela would come home, and Angela was another one that I wanted to just protect. And she had to deal with a lot of those, and it was something that I had no experience with. The whole mean girl phenomena. No experience as a mother. As a child, I was on the receiving end of that. The whole mean girl thing. And it would just twist me that she was so sweet and so good and so smart and so gorgeous and so just add the adjectives, because those are all the things that Angela was and is. And she'd be home in tears because some little witch at school who was incredibly jealous of her had to try and make her feel bad to make themselves feel good. And I wanted to go into school. I didn't care how old they were. I wanted to go in there and rip somebody's tits off. I was just, how dare you? And the frustration that I as a mother felt trying to convince her from where I'm standing, having been through all of that, and now as a woman looking back, that none of that really matters. I went into the first grade having never been to school before, and I couldn't speak a word of English. I only spoke Spanish. And so for the first few weeks of school, I was a novelty. That, and my mother used to make banana curls on my hair. So I grew up on Staten Island, and that was basically an Irish and Italian mix. So, to all the little red-haired girls with freckles and blonde, blue-eyed, I was something of a novelty because I spoke Spanish, and I didn't look like them. And I remember there was this one girl who was she was like a cheerleader. I mean, and these things are defined in first grade, but this girl she was like the Girl Scout, and with the blonde pigtails, big blue eyes, and her name was Trish, of course. So she would do things like make her own birthday party invitations. Really, she was like a crafty bitch, all tissue paper, all different colors and everything. My feeling though was, since I didn't get an invitation, was that Trish thought that I wouldn't be allowed to go since my parents were so strict. So my naive second grade self goes up to Trish and says, and I say to Trish, so, I'm going to try and convince my mother to let me come to your party. And she looked at me, she goes, I didn't invite you to my party. This was in the second grade. And I was like, wow. Wow. That was my first whiff of mean girl. I was a tomboy. I was athletic. I played softball. I wrestled. I kicked, anybody's ass who got in my way. But my patience I had no patience for all that cattiness and nonsense. It was just, I'd rather hang out with the guys and which didn't serve me well, because now I'm heading into teenagehood where all the girls are talking about, this one or the other one and how he's cute and blah, blah, blah. Well, I was one of the guys. The guys would talk with me about other girls. It's like, wait a minute, what's wrong with this picture?
What did that teach you? Because being privy to that.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I learned that boys talk a lot of shit. That was the first thing I learned. And knowing that served me well going forward, So right around 7th grade, I was like, you know what? Fuck you. I don't need this. I can take care of me. While you guys are worried about what 45s you're gonna buy this weekend at the mall, or saving your money, I was on it. I was doing programs, like I did an executive internship program with the March of Dimes, and I started figuring out Staten Island is not the place for me. I need to be out of here.